Hey everybody, Logan here. Today we're covering a controller that, well, I've noticed that there are some people that still want these days to have a DualShock/Sense style controller for their Xbox. Not sure why. I've always been a big fan of the offset sticks, and most people are, most pro gamers. That's why you usually see a pro controller with the offset sticks, because the ones that are symmetrical, usually not so much. They're older, a little more outdated. Not sure why Sony still uses it, but hey, PlayStation fans swear by it. And there are a lot of people that still do and want that on their Xbox. So you know what? PowerA answered that call. That right here is the Symmetric. See it? The PowerA Symmetric wired controller. Now, this one is a rather inexpensive. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's more designed as a replacement of the standard wired controller for your Xbox with those style sticks. So what we're going to do is we're going to unbox it, test it out, of course, and see how it feels. And hopefully it's worth it. Here we go. The PowerA Symmetric wired controller. It's a standard wired controller. Like I said, there's no crazy bells and whistles. You don't get the Hall effect sticks. You don't get the map buttons in the back. This was a more of a stealth drop by PowerA. Now, this isn't one that was sent to me. It's one of those that's not really one of their big focuses, but they just kind of slid it out there. So I saw it dirt cheap on Amazon because it's a very inexpensive controller. At the time of purchase, I think it was $26.99, but yeah, I'm gonna put whatever the price is right now as of editing, how much this is currently on Amazon, and it's also available on PowerA's website, so I'll show you that. But it's a very simple controller meant just to replace the standard Xbox controller with the offset sticks, with the symmetrical sticks. I'm not sure what took companies so long to make ones like this, because there are a number of people out there that do like it. More people, especially reviewing controllers, I've learned still like the pro style where they're offset. It's just more comfortable and it feels right in the hand because you don't always leave your hands on the sticks. Your most often held control scheme would be this here with this here. Those are the most used for majority of games. This is going to be for shooters. This is going to be for everything else. So that's why they're like this. There are some people that said it doesn't make sense. You're stupid if you don't like them symmetrical. No, it doesn't make sense because your hands would be like this all the time. No, it makes sense for your hands to be like this. That was one of the reasons why the Wii U tested like this, but they realized, you know what? That's not how people hold a controller, and this is the most standard way to hold. But like I said, there are people that still prefer that. There's also the retro style gamers that prefer when they're playing old school games, because they're still available on Xbox and PC, to have the buttons up there as well as the D-pad and just kind of ignore the stick. So you do have that. All right, I've gone on too much explaining why. Let's look. Inline thumbsticks, rumble motors plus impulse triggers, and a 10-foot cable. That's about it. Pretty plain, pretty simple, but that's what it is. Like I said, it was a very inexpensive controller, and this could be something that's, you know, a positive thing for people who like this style, and it's not expensive. So yeah, did I mention it's not expensive? Okay, that's actually a really nice blue. I'm not surprised that they released it in blue because that's like the PlayStation color, so it kind of makes sense. It feels like an Xbox controller, but it feels a slightly bit wider, to be honest. I mean, ever so slightly. It just might be me. Yeah, you notice that? It's ever so slightly wider than a standard Xbox controller. And I think that has to do with the offset. That's a... Yeah, I knew I wasn't going nuts. That feels a bit wider right there. You can feel it in the hand. It doesn't feel bad at all. It's strange, though. That feels weird because you can tell it's definitely a tad bit wider. On the back, it doesn't look that much, but you can definitely see that it's a wired controller. No fancy grips, no back buttons, no trigger locks, no claw buttons, nothing fancy. It's literally a standard controller with these two swapped and definitely a bit wider. It's gonna take some getting used to because you notice it in the hand. You definitely notice it in the hand that it's wider. Otherwise, it feels fine. That D-pad is I love the PowerA D-pad. There's nothing fancy about it, but it's your standard plus, and it's comfortable. It doesn't hurt the fingers. It doesn't give you that Super Nintendo thumb that we used to call it back in the day. You've got your anti-friction rings. You've got your great sticks, shoulder buttons, trigger buttons. Everything's great. That cable is significantly longer than I expected. That's a 10-foot cable. You usually see around, well, no, there are a lot of companies that the console cables are usually around 10 feet. The ones that come with PC controllers are usually about 6 or shorter because you're sitting right up on your PC. So this is definitely designed for console. That is weird. But you know what? I like it because it gives you more space between the sticks. That's one of the things I always had an issue with PlayStation controllers until the DualSense, and the DualSense is much wider than your standard controller. As you can see there, it's closer to this because they've added a bigger space in between the sticks. I wasn't a big fan of the older PlayStation controllers because those sticks were way too close, and more often than not, my thumbs would hit because the way I rock the stick, because I don't go like this. I don't know too many people that do, but there are people that do. Me, I'm like that. So it's more like in the middle, so my fingers would hit quite often. I'm like, I don't like playing shooters like that. So the Xbox controller was definitely better for me and a lot of people. But you know what? Putting the extra space and, distance in between it, that's actually pretty nice. But that doesn't mean anything if it doesn't feel good while it plays, or latency. We got to check that too, of course. All right, here we go. We're on controllertest.org, where I pretty much test every controller for real-time latency. Now, there are other sites that do have it, like I've used GamePadla in the past, but it doesn't have every controller, especially those in the, I guess you could call the value line. They have mainly PC with a couple of consoles, but this is something I like to do right out of the box, so you could see exactly what a brand new, even a value controller like this, latency that it can give you. And hopefully, people like to know that it doesn't have like a 10 millisecond delay. And yeah, so what do? Let's test it. All right, there we go. Let's take a look at some of these numbers really quickly. For a sub $30 controller, this is not bad. A wired one that is not a pro controller, no Hall effect sticks, standard membrane buttons. This isn't bad. You're looking at max latency is pretty high on some of these. For some reason, the A button has a 35 millisecond max latency, which is not good. Looking at the rest, it all says it's pretty great. I'm not sure why this one has such a high max latency. Otherwise, you're sitting at above 3 milliseconds. It's okay. It says great, but it's okay. Anything that's about 3.2 and lower is good, but we're looking at only one button, maybe two sits below that. It's okay. It's okay in general. Max latency, besides the A button, which is the most used button, maybe it's just this controller, because if you look at the other ones, you're sitting around 5.6 to 6.1, which is a little high. I don't know why it says great compared to a lot of the other ones, but it's still in that not bad for the buck price range. Everything else seems to be pretty much par for the course. Everything's around a 3 millisecond plus average here and there, except for some spots on the D-pad where you get a little lower. Not 100% sure why that is. Now, the triggers are what got me here, where the left trigger seems to have a higher average by 1 whole millisecond. And as you can see, I did 31, 32, which is just about the same thing. But this max latency on the right is 4.9, and the max latency on the left is 6.3. Minimum is 0.6, and then here minimum is 0.7. So I'm not sure what's off with the left trigger, but the good thing is most of the time more people care about the right trigger because it's, you know, your gun trigger. It's the one that fires your bullets, depending on the game you're playing. But the face button's the only thing that bothers me right here is the max latency is sitting at 35.0 milliseconds. Let's it's not going any higher, but you can still see even with let's go up to 100 presses, still sitting at 3.4 milliseconds. So I don't know what that was. Maybe it's a fluke, but hey, keep that in mind when you're buying this. All right, it feels pretty fine, pretty par for the course. Is it as responsive as a 1000+ hertz controller? No. Do I wish it had trigger locks? Yes. That's me just getting picky, because all the controllers I've ever used, it's a solid controller. It feels fine in the hand. Once you get used to the fact that it's a bit wider because of the symmetrical sticks instead of the Pro layout for the offset sticks, you'll be fine unless you're a PlayStation person. But if you're a PlayStation person, I don't expect you to be playing on Xbox regularly. Feels fine. Nothing wrong with it. Rumble's great. It feels like standard rumble, whether you're in the triggers or in the handles. It's fine. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this controller. D-pads are... everything's fine. For your standard player, if you just want something that isn't expensive and you just want the different sticks, it's a solid choice, especially for that price tag. I can't say no to this if this is your bag. So you might just like it. I can't say... this isn't something I would say avoid, but if you want something pro, this ain't it. PowerA does have a number of other options, as well as another one that I should be getting soon that I definitely am excited to bring to you from PowerA. That's a wired contender to the G7 SE. If you guys know, you know. If you follow my channel, well, and if you don't, hit that subscribe button because you're definitely going to want to see that. This closer to... no, I would still suggest a GameSir T7 over this if you want Hall effect sticks or if you want something value. But this is mainly if you want that symmetrical stick layout. That's the only thing I could really recommend. It's not a terrible controller. It's solid for the price. That A button gives me issue just because of that statistic that we saw, that max delay. I just think it might have been one little glitch. I don't know. It just didn't make sense with the rest of the buttons. But otherwise, I think this is a solid controller. You can't go wrong if you want that symmetrical style layout. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video. God bless you all. Like we always say, be legendary. Thanks again.